We're back with another episode of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale with Don and Kevin. Kevin.
Don, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Celebrating?
Celebrating what?
Your birthday.
I don't celebrate these big birthdays anymore, man.
Happy birthday, Don.
It's a week old, so
I know.
I was trying to hide it. So
we had a guest last week that we didn't have a chance to talk about.
That's okay,
Happy
but
birthday,
I hit a big number. It's a new decade, and I'm not going to tell you which one, but it's
You're
a new decade.
You're looking good, though, buddy. That's the thing. That's what's important.
Well,
Is you're healthy, you're strong, you're looking young.
Man, how much did you pay him, Jenna? You paid him a lot of money for that, didn't you? That's pretty good, Kevin. Thank you, buddy. My goodness. Today, we're joined by a familiar face. Jenna Kohl. She's been with us before, but in a different job. Right now, she's with us because she's the relatively new, 7 weeks in, director of the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. It's one of Scottsdale's most treasured natural assets, as we all know. This is a little different because Jenna now is working for the city, not for the commission. We're going to talk about that, or conservancy, I should say. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Under her leadership, though, the preserve continues to thrive as a model for community stewardship, sustainability, and outdoor recreation. Jenna now is working to ensure that this desert landscaping, spanning thousands of acres and hundreds of miles of trails, remains protected and accessible for generations to come. Jenna, so good to have you back with us in a new role.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight to talk about the preserve, one of the gems of our city.
It absolutely is, and you're one of the gems of our city too. So you've been in many leadership roles throughout your time in Scottsdale. Give us a little bit of background. I know we've talked a little bit before, but let's refresh us with some of the things you've done before you got to the city here.
Absolutely. I have been so privileged to serve in community service-oriented roles for my entire career. I started out working for local government back in Illinois as an assistant city manager for several years before coming to Arizona. I got to serve the Anthem Community Council up north and most recently DC Ranch, which is a large master plan community in the north end of Scottsdale. I stepped down from that position in the spring of this year and really was looking for how I could use my skills and passion to serve our community further, and this opportunity presented itself, and I couldn't pass it up.
Well, you also are involved. You're a leadership. You're a leader in many respects. Women's Collective. You're a part of that too, right? I think we talked about that before.
We have. You hosted me before, and yes, happy to be a founder and part of the Women's Collective. We just held our night run event. And also a new board member on Boys and Girls Club of Greater Scottsdale. So I'm excited about that adventure as well.
Can we think of a job that she hasn't had yet in terms of a community
That's
role?
a big one, though. That's big.
Yeah, that's a good one,
right?
for sure.
They do a lot of good for our community and supporting the youth.
We had Paul and Ivan on a couple of weeks ago. Sure, yeah, exactly. So tell us about the job at the Preserve. You work for the city. What drew you to that and its mission? What piqued your interest with that?
Oh, so many things. You know, the preserve, as you mentioned, it's 30,500 acres. It's about 27%, so almost a third of our city. And over the years, the Scottsdale voters have voted to protect it in perpetuity, and that's a really important role. I think that involves so many of us, residents, et cetera, and to be able to be part of that. I've always been passionate about the land. I was raised by two educators, the outdoors, very important, understanding the value in our lives for so many different reasons, whether it's health and wellness or ecological biodiversity, et cetera. And so this role really drew me to that from that aspect. And I think my experience bringing community and stakeholders together was something that tied directly to this role, because it does take a whole community to care for this really important community asset.
Good point. How did you find out about it?
Well, I have always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to return to local government. It's where my roots are. No pun intended.
That was a pretty good one. You catch that, Kevin? All right, good. All right.
And so I saw this opportunity arise, and really the more I marinated on it, I felt like this is a place that I could make a difference.
And it certainly is. And you're 7 weeks in, and many more to come for sure.
Absolutely.
Because it's important work, to say the least. You know, Kevin, a lot of people wonder what the difference is between what Jenna's doing and what the role of the Conservancy is.
Yeah, let me get my chalkboard out as we start to explain this, because
Exactly.
it's changed a little bit, and I'm interested in it.
So how does it differ? 'Cause you're working for the city, and the Conservancy is much different. So how does that all come together?
That is an excellent question, and I love the opportunity to explain this because it is a really important partnership. So the City of Scottsdale owns and manages the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. We are in charge of ensuring that we're stewarding it today, so balancing recreational access as well as ecological interests, and that we're doing that in a way, stewarding it today, so it is preserved forever. And that is our charge. It is the people's preserve. It belongs to the people of Scottsdale. My team is fairly small. It is me, a preserve manager. We have about 6 full-time and about 6 part-time team members that work for the city that care for the preserve. 48 square miles is a lot of ground to cover, right? And so we really rely on partnerships. Not only internal, we work closely with Scottsdale Fire, with tourism, communications, public safety partners, et cetera. We also rely on external stakeholders and partners, Arizona Game and Fish, et cetera. You asked about what I consider to be one of our most important partnerships, and that's with the McDowell Sonoran Conservancy. They have been a part of this preserve since day one. They are a 501c3 nonprofit, and the city has an agreement with the Conservancy to provide a broad spectrum of services. They manage over 600 volunteer stewards that are at the trailheads, that do trail maintenance, that do trail patrol. They also do citizen science, so a lot of the really important research that drives what we do for things like habitat restoration, et cetera, in the preserve. They're part of that. They also have full-time staff members that are expert scientists in flora and fauna, and they do things that relate to education. They do a lot of lectures, a lot of them held at Mustang Library. They also host school children out at the preserve and educate them. So the role that they serve, we really couldn't do what we do without them. And frankly, it's the envy of many other preserves and land stewards, throughout the country. It's very unique.
So how do you work with them? What's a normal working relationship look like? You meet on a regular basis? You have, how does that whole relationship work?
There are so many moving parts that we communicate all the time. We have natural resource supervisors out in the field that are working with the Conservancy team on a day-to-day basis, whether that's where they're doing citizen science, if they're looking at doing habitat restoration, where the diamond fire went through the gooseneck portion of the preserve, how we're planting saguaros, how we're funding things. That is face-to-face, that is communication, that is, we have regular meetings, so it is a pretty seamless, and I have to credit all of the founders and the preserve pioneers before me for really setting up a relationship that is so integrated that I understand why it's hard to tell who does what. We all work together daily to take care for this preserve.
That's a perfect partnership, Kevin.
Absolutely.
That's the way it works.
Now, is there still an executive director of the Conservancy? They still have a leadership over there?
Mike Roberts was their board chair, and he is serving in the interim role.
Looking for
so he has been, carrying it forward.
Great.
So they're still searching for a CEO, right?
I believe they're going to be launching a search in the near
Okay.
future. I don't know exactly when.
Yeah. You mentioned fire season ago. We just got through a fire season without a fire. Boy, knock on wood, huh?
We're very fortunate.
How were you preparing for that? I know you work with the fire department a lot. I know Tom Shannon, we've had him on here talking about how he does preventative work out there. Fingers were crossed all season, or what was that all like?
Absolutely. So that is another critical partnership is with Scottsdale Fire, and the fire chief is very diligent and forward-thinking about how we protect this asset. So that includes everything from, we do fire fuel mitigation, so that could be pre-emergent, that could be trimming back. We are also about to launch a wildfire restoration study that would use technology to do fire flow modeling, et cetera, to see where we need to focus our efforts. The Conservancy and our team goes out and helps create fire fuel breaks throughout the preserve. It's a really important part of what we do on a day-to-day basis, and that is what we're in part using the Proposition 490 funding for, is to do that work.
Well, we can be thankful that we didn't have another crisis on our hands like we had, was it 2 years ago, the Diamond Fire? 2 years ago, right?
I think so.
Did you say 490 money?
Yes.
Is that the one that just passed?
Yes.
And you guys are benefiting from proceeds from that? I thought that was a behavioral health thing.
So Prop 490 is the one that passed in 2024.
It was a city prop.
Oh,
City
right.
proposition.
Yeah. Versus a county prop.
Not the most
Yeah.
recent one.
Oh, the one that passed in this last week or 2 weeks ago.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
Oh, I see. Which one was that one?
So Proposition 490 passed last year, November, and that funds a number of things related to parks and recreation, as well as the preserve, Westworld, et cetera, passed by the voters. In terms of the preserve, we receive 18% of those proceeds. I'm going to say this wrong, but it's a transaction tax, a privileged use tax. So after the Westworld debt service is paid, we receive 18%, and that funds a number of initiatives in the preserve that are really important. That could be the fire fuel mitigation, invasive species remediation, habitat restoration, and other important projects.
The one that was Maricopa County, was that also 490? Does somebody know?
I think it was 490. I think it was.
Doesn't matter for what we're talking about.
Well, that was the Maricopa Health System.
Yeah, that was the Maricopa
right.
County.
I think that was 490. You're right. Yeah, I think
So
it was.
you can see why I'm confused.
Oh, you're always confused. So am I, for that matter. I couldn't explain it either. I'm glad Jenna's here so she can take us through it, man. Absolutely. So what's a normal day look like for you? I mean, if I was the preserve director, I'd be out on Lost Dog Wash every single day.
I know you would.
But that's probably not what you can do, is it?
Oh, no, I wish. It is interesting. I do try to hike every weekend, and it has turned from something that really has just been a there's a mountain I want to climb it, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a recreational thing
You've
for
done
me
Run
for
to
many
Rim, right?
years. I have.
That's what
I've
I thought.
hiked all over the world. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no place like home, but to really what I call field study. So on the weekends, I'm out looking at not only enjoying the trails, but now I see how are other users experiencing the trails. I'm looking at the flora and fauna. I came across 2 desert tortoises last Saturday.
good.
Yeah, it was fascinating. And really having that end user experience that I then can use when I'm doing long-term planning for the preserve. But you're right. It's funny. People are like, "Oh, all you do is hike all day long." Well, okay, if it's a Saturday, yes.
Yeah.
But not during the work week.
I'd find a way to do that if I were you.
There's actually quite a bit of work to do during the work week. So there is no typical day for me. It could range anything from budgeting for next year. Our budget season is kicked off today, actually, to meeting with an archaeologist to look at a cultural site that might necessitate us rerouting a trail, to then having a meeting regarding the wildlife corridor or another capital project that we're planning for the future. So it really ranges across a broad spectrum of things related to the preserve.
We got to remember, you're still working for a bureaucracy, so we understand how that can go. That will keep her off the trail on a daily basis. That's for darn sure. Yeah. So how can you engage the community? And maybe this is part of what the Conservancy does too. I mean, from volunteers to visitors, how do you engage the community in understanding how important it is to preserve the ecosystem out there?
I love that question, because going back to what I said before, it really takes all of us in Scottsdale. This is our collective asset. So there are a number of ways that people can get involved and support the preserve. It is potentially supporting the Conservancy and the work that they do, becoming a steward or supporting them in a financial way. It could be serving on the Preserve Commission. We have a volunteer Preserve Commission appointed by City Council that makes decisions as to how we are good financial stewards of taxpayer dollars and what projects we undertake. It could be just being a smart user of the preserve, making sure that when you go out to hike, you are prepared, you've got GPS, you are not wearing flip-flops, you have plenty of water. And also, if you are working around the preserve or driving along Pima, that you're not doing anything that could jeopardize the preserve. A lot of our risk comes from construction. It just takes one spark. So just being really smart
That was the diamond fire,
around
wasn't
the
it?
preserve.
That's
It
what
was.
started that. Yeah, right.
And being educated and helping tell the story of this amazing, this preserve is one of, if not the largest contiguous municipal-owned land preserves in the country. And the Sonoran Desert in particular is the most biodiverse of the deserts in North America. We want to keep it that way. And so everybody contributing to that is really important.
My pet peeve is when I'm out there hiking and I see other hikers with earbuds in both their ears, realizing this is natural out here, and it's not always safe. I've run into rattlesnakes a dozen times.
You have, yeah?
Right across the trail, and several times if I hadn't heard them first, I would have walked right on them.
Really?
Because you don't see them because they
So you don't wear your
blend in
headphones.
really well.
So you wear your headphones in the gym, but you don't wear them when you go on the trail.
Exactly right.
Really?
If you got your buds in on the trail, you're asking for trouble.
Really?
And unless you want to meet a snake,
You are spot on. They oftentimes do not let you know they're there until it's too late.
can
So
almost
you have
walk
to
on
be-
them.
right.
Yeah, it's happened to me a couple of times. If I hadn't heard them, I would have walked almost right on them.
And are you still a lost dog guy?
I'm a lost dog guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my go-to because it's just easy to get to. I love it because I know every inch of the trail.
Yeah?
Yes, which works out pretty well for me anyway. But
You know the names of all the canyons and everything up there? And all
no,
that?
I don't know any of that. I just know I just know how to get around.
That's a Jenna the gooseneck.
Jenna probably knows all that stuff.
Where's gooseneck at?
So the gooseneck is where the south and the north ends of the preserve kind of connect. It's north of Tom's Thumb, if you know where that is.
Okay, yeah.
And it's an important corridor for wildlife to get through and ultimately, connect up to the Tonto National Forest.
makes
So it's
sense,
a
yeah.
really thin portion of the preserve.
Yeah.
Did you know where the gooseneck was?
No,
Not either.
no, not at all. Are you kidding me? I know where Lost Dog Wash is, and I
Yeah.
know a couple of the other ones too, but Lost Dog's my regular one anyway. So you talked about education. That's a big part of the work too, and you do a lot of work with schools, and you and the Conservancy both. I know because there's school buses out there all the time with kids coming out. How does that work, and what is your role in terms of working with school districts and other partners like that?
Really, it has been largely in the Conservancy's domain. I mentioned they do lectures at all the time on things like their bat studies that they do, or saguaros. They also, if a school does want to come out, they will give tours. They will take the youth through exercises to identify different things in the desert and become desert aware. It is something that is in city code that we have responsibility to do. It's part of my master plan moving forward to really look at education and how we try to make information on the preserve available to all ages and people, whether or not they have the ability to go to the preserve. Because if we're really going to be, and you can tell this is something, I'm the daughter of two educators,
So
I'm
here we
really
go.
passionate about it. So, but if we're really going to take care of this preserve into perpetuity, part of that is helping educate the next generation to, I'm fortunate, there were so many impactful preserve pioneers, Carla, city mayors, et cetera, that did the land acquisition, that got the funding for the preserve and really protected it for the community. And I want to be the bridge to the next generation of folks that are really going to care for this.
That's awesome. That makes sense. It's almost a perfect description of the job, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to ask this before, but you kind of explained a little bit, and while I was waiting to ask the question, I kind of got a little bit clearer picture. But I'm going to go ahead and ask anyway on behalf of our audience. So what's the role of the commission? Has that role changed at all, or do they still do the same work they did before?
So it's evolved with, and I won't use proposition numbers again, but it has evolved.
Yeah, send me into a loop.
And don't start naming any canyons either.
They really serve an important role. Many of the commissioners are also stewards.
Okay.
They come from a wide variety of backgrounds, the commissioners, and they do a number of things. They look at how we allocate our dollars. We also have something called the Ecological Resource Plan that we update every year. And that is essentially when you go to the doctor and you get a checkup and you get your medical report, that's our medical report, right? So what are we seeing in the preserve? What do we need to do if we see certain populations declining or what have you? They challenge us to make sure we have programs and solutions in place to address that. They also look at our capital projects. So our capital projects are funded largely through the 2004 tax. We have a number of improvements coming up to trailheads. The trailheads that have been around for a while, I like to say we don't learn from our mistakes, we learn from our experiments. And so a lot of those initial trailheads, we want to take the lessons learned and update those for the end user experience. So we're going to be making a number of improvements to Brown's Ranch, Gateway, even Lost Dog at some point. And the commission provides input and advice and counsel on those projects, as well as really looking at that wildlife crossing that we're doing a feasibility study on right now.
Kind of when they have it going up in Flagstaff, or is that different?
That it is. So you're talking about the crossing up on the I-17?
Yeah.
Yes, that is
Okay.
exactly what we're talking about, but in the preserve. That has been identified as a really important connector over the Rio Verde Dynamite transportation corridor to help our wildlife. And, a number of the preserves in the area have lost their biodiversity because they don't have that connector. And so that's what we're studying right now.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool. Yeah, interesting. So what is the latest on the tax situation? I've lost track of all that now. I know there's one tax that's going to expire, another one's going to pick back up. I think it's going to pick back up, right?
So there was a tax instituted based on vote in 1995 that retired this year. And so the Prop 490 that I spoke of earlier is a new, transaction use and privilege tax. So that one is 0.5%, so less than the one that retired this year. And then we also have the 2004 tax. So the 2004 tax really was for land acquisition and improvements to our infrastructure.
And is that the one that the commission was recently assembled for, a different commission, a feasibility commission? As a temporary thing? Is that what they were talking about?
That was for 490. That was passed last year, is my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, they went through some challenges. I remember, and that whole thing. As anything happens in Scottsdale, you've got to have a little political drama with everything, and we certainly had some with that too. So I'm glad it passed, though, for sure. Any challenges that keep you up at night if you're not hiking? Any challenges that you worry about in the future?
There will always be challenges. I think really the wildland fire, I learned a new term, WUI.
WUI?
What is that?
Wildland Urban Interface, thanks to Fire Chief Shannon.
Okay.
But really, how do we care for that interface so we are mitigating risk of fire in the future? And how are we ensuring that we are ahead of the game in terms of taking care of the preserve, whether it's residents and visitors enjoying the trails, or taking care of the flora and fauna that call it home.
There's so much non-native stuff growing in our preserve, grasses basically. And every time I go out there, and depending on the time of year, you look at that and say, this is all just tinder.
Yeah.
And a spark comes in here, and you never know what's going to happen. The non-native stuff just drives me nuts out there.
Fortunately, we have a lot of smart people working on it.
Right, yeah.
And at being very proactive. So I know it's in good hands, and we'll continue to look at that.
I'd say it's in good hands with you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. You're going to get another job. We're going to have you on the podcast again.
I think this one's going to be it for me.
Stick this one for a while.
This is home for me.
Well, it's a proper home for sure. Kevin, what a delight it's been to talk to Jenna again, right?
Yeah, I think of the cool thing about preserve is because, as Jenna kind of mentioned, everybody in town loves this and knows what an asset this is and protects it. People who've never been in the preserve in 10 years understand how special it is and are interested in preservation and growing it and keeping it protected. And that's something that's special to Scottsdale, I think. I don't think that if you had this asset in a different part of the country, no matter where it is, I don't know if the community would care that much about it if it was something they weren't using on a regular basis. But that's not the case here at all, is it?
Well, especially since it was passed. Frankly, I don't know if we had that issue to tax ourselves to hold 1/3 of our city land in perpetuity. I don't know if how that would fare today in today's political environment.
Never do that.
We had good leaders back in the day that really made this happen. Now we all get to benefit from it.
Yeah, and
perfect example of what good leadership is.
Exactly. Jen talked about the pioneers, right? Maybe people. You think people understand the story? Do they understand the legacy of it? Is that's why they care so much about it? I mean, I just don't understand how people who don't use the preserve in Scottsdale still have a passion for it.
I know,
which I think is a good thing. But
Kevin, there's a great book by local historian Joan Fadala on the history of the preserve. Yeah. And I highly recommend it because it gets exactly to what you're talking about. All of the steps that those pioneers went through to establish this, and now we have this gift and responsibility to care for it. It is a defining asset of Scottsdale. It's recreation, it's health, it's wellness, and it's caring for the land, and it's a privilege to be part of it.
You know what I like about it? I can hike Lost Dog Trail. I could hike it 95. I hike it now. I could hike it 10 years from now. It looks exactly the same.
Really?
I mean, it's the same trail, the same landmarks. Nothing changes.
And do you see the same people out there hiking?
No, not really. You see a variety of people, but I never pay attention to them anyway. I like to hike solo because that's my meditation time out there too. It's just a great place to get away. Now, I mean, things change. It blooms, it doesn't bloom, whatever. But the major landmarks are always consistent.
Now, what's the deal with Lost? Isn't that one? Can you ride bikes up there?
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah.
And is that a little bit controversial? Do the hikers not like the bikes and vice versa?
You just got to get out of their way when they're coming by. I haven't had any problems with it.
Just live and now, is that all trailheads? Are bikes allowed in all the preserves, or are there certain ones where they're allowed and they're not allowed?
So, interesting fact, a lot of people don't realize this, but Pinnacle Peak is not part of the preserve. No. So we don't allow bikes there. That I also get to be part of Pinnacle Peak and taking care of that as well. But there are so many.
Wait, I'm sorry, is that a city park?
It is a park.
It's a
Pinnacle
park.
Peak Park. Mm-hmm.
Really? Okay, so it's not part of the preserve. Is
Correct.
it embedded in the preserve? Is this preserve all around it?
It is not. It is its own unique site. We care for, a lot of how we care for the preserve translates to how we care for Pinnacle Peak and the trail, et cetera, but it is separate. There are some amazing mountain bike trails throughout the preserve, particularly out of Brown's Ranch, Pima Dynamite. It's the Gooseneck area is a fantastic place to mountain bike. It's one of my favorites.
But bikes are allowed everywhere in the preserve.
I believe so.
I think that's right. And we get along. When they come, they say, "Hey, get out of the way, buddy," that kind of stuff. So it's okay. I don't push people off the bikes too often, so it works out okay.
You don't trip them intentionally?
No, I don't trip them. I try not to trip them. Yeah, at least intentionally. What a great conversation.
Yeah.
And we're so thrilled that you're in that job and that you have so much passion for it, because that's what it's going to take. It's a passionate thing, man. That the preserve is Scottsdale passion all through and through.
You couldn't pick a better person. You couldn't.
No, you couldn't. Jenna, thank you so much, and we'll have to have you back and do some updates just because it's fun having you here.
Thank you. I appreciate it and hope to see you out on the trails.
You'll see me on the trail for sure. I hope to see you on the trail too. And if you're not on the trail, then try listening to our podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it and spread the word about good stuff in Scottsdale. See you again for our next episode of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale.